Welcome to the World of Rare Disease, a show that focuses on awareness and education about rare and complex disorders. I am Lisa Deck, your host for today's show and a Rare New England committee member. Today, our show features Annette Hines. Annette is the founding partner of Special Needs Law Group of Massachusetts and has been practicing in the areas of special needs, elder law, and estate planning for over 20 years. Her clients include individuals and families of children with special needs, the elderly, and others in the community. Annette brings personal experience with special needs to her practice as the mother of 2 daughters, one of whom passed away from mitochondrial disease in November 2013. I am thrilled to welcome Annette to our show.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we are so happy to have you. Thank you. So first, I just wanted to talk a little bit about mitochondrial disease. Can you just tell me a little bit about what that's like? Or what your daughter experienced, and then we are going to kind of talk a little bit more about your professional life.
Yeah, so Mito, that's our nickname for it, is it's a spectrum of diseases actually, and when we first got diagnosed, it hadn't even been sort of discovered for 10 years yet, so we were sort of in the early years of it, and it's on a continuum. Unfortunately, we weren't able to figure out what type she had because it was so early on, and we joined a trial in trying to figure out. So I think it kind of best sums it up if you think a little bit about the fact that for Elizabeth, it took us until she was almost 3 to figure out even what was going on with her, which was a journey that many families that we met had. And it's a journey that many people in the rare disease world experience. So it's very typical when we meet families with rare diseases. We share that in common. What was your life like? Well, it's a long time before you get sort of the name for what it is. And then when you find out, oh, it's mitochondrial disease, it doesn't always explain much because mitochondrial disease has this whole host of symptoms, but it's not the same for everybody. So for Elizabeth, she was on sort of the worst end of things. So her end diagnosis was Lee's-like disease because that was the closest that we could come to figuring out what it was.
Right.
And unfortunately, that was one of the more rare forms and one of the more devastating forms. So it is a degenerative neuromuscular disorder, and that means that over time things get worse, they don't get better. So every day you're never going to be any better than you are today, and it impacts every system that you have. It's kind of like the mitochondrial part of your cell is the battery pack,
Right.
and that's how they describe it. So when it's dysfunctional, it doesn't feed the rest of your body.
Right.
I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor, so that's the best way that I understood it. So
I think that's an understanding people can understand.
Yeah.
And we'll go a little bit more. I mean, I can't imagine going through that, and what a warrior your daughter was, and you. So again, it's tragic, such a terrible situation. Yet, knowing you, what you have, what legacy you have brought to her life, and what you have done for others, and that's what we want to focus on right now. Your professional life. So tell me a little bit about what you do and how this has transformed. How Elizabeth has transformed what you do.
Well, I was an attorney barely when Elizabeth was born, so I always knew I wanted to do some sort of helping work, but immediately I knew that that was going to be something with disabilities and healthcare. So I set up to hang my shingle because as a mom with a really needy kid, there was no way I was going to be able to work full time. So I started out just doing some advocacy work, and it was great working with other families like mine right from the get-go. And so I started out in this world doing educational advocacy and healthcare advocacy, and I joined every task force and every committee out there, and I was the mom who never said no to anything, and that's how I got to be very experienced and got very well connected in our community, but also I just learned so much from other parents and other family members. It was awesome.
Right, right. I'm familiar with the mom who doesn't say no, but I do think that gives you that experience. So I believe that led to the special needs law group.
Right.
Can you tell me about that and what that means and what you do?
Well, eventually, after multiple failures of trying to join other law firms and not really getting a lot of traction because people weren't that interested in this very narrow focus that I had, I decided to kind of launch out on my own, and I thought, well, there has to be a way to just do this and only this, and there's definitely a market for it. People really need us, right? And I was so right. So 8 years ago, my husband and I started Special Needs Law Group, and it has been just such a godsend. And Elizabeth was totally the reason for it. This is our legacy for her. At the time, she was in her final year, so I really wanted this to be our thing, and our butterfly symbol was a tribute to her, and it's always been Elizabeth's symbol. So we launched our logo and our special needs law group as we were kind of winding down to say goodbye to Elizabeth, and it's been just booming ever since.
Right. Wow, what a legacy for her.
Yeah.
So when we talk about rare disease, which, obviously it falls into this bucket of what the work you do, how does the law group serve and impact rare disease patients, and what are some things that are available to them?
So we started out to do something really different in the sense that we're not just a law group. We also employ social workers and a nurse. So we do a lot of advocacy work as well, which it's really unusual. And not only do we do that so that we don't just send out an attorney, it's a more collaborative process. It's a way of trying to just have a team approach to solving a problem and really, getting out into the community and meeting the needs of people with special healthcare needs.
Right.
So I think that we've proven that model really works, and it has been enormous in our community.
Right. So it seems like you saw a need, you went to fill the need, and you're recognizing that this is very valuable to so many people. And you were just telling me about your newest initiative, and I'd love for you to share that with all of us.
Yeah, so once we knew that this was going to be really successful and that people really needed it, we launched Special Needs Family Services so that we could do it in a bigger way and move it out from under the law group. It was a way to be able to hire more advocacy folks and to offer it at a lower price point and to, I think, lower the anxiety threshold for people that wanted to both hire us and then also work with us. So we could be more collaborative with healthcare professionals, government agencies. For example, whenever we would go into a government agency like Mass Health or Social Security, they would really get anxious when the attorney would come knocking. But when the social worker came or the nurse came, it would be such a different environment, such a more collaborative effort. So even taking the name out, Special Needs Law Group, instead of that, now Special Needs Family Services, it's such a different approach. It's such a more calming way to provide those services to people, and we call it just giving people a hug and that providing that family circle of services. So it's everything that I wished that I had when my family was young, and we just couldn't find it.
Right.
We just couldn't find that suite of services that we needed at the level of cost that we could afford.
Right.
So
right.
this is what I've been trying to create for 2 decades, and it's finally here. I'm so
Right.
excited.
Excellent. So can you tell me a couple examples of what like somebody might come to the special needs family services, and what's something that I would say, okay, I'm going to go and talk to them about? What service do you provide?
So we have an elderly gentleman who has been in the hospital for a couple of days, and he's struggling to understand what's going on with his discharge plan and what he needs at home. So we sent our nurse out to answer some questions and help him just sort of, describe and define what the doctors are talking to him about. Everything in the hospital goes so fast, and make sure that when he goes back to his assisted living that the visits are set up appropriately, and that his family members who don't live near him are informed about what's going on, and that the services not only get set up, but that somebody actually makes that visit when he
Right.
gets there.
Right.
He didn't understand why he was going to be receiving a blood transfusion, what was going on with his iron level and things like that. Somebody else was having some difficulty with their benefits, and they were getting multiple pieces of paper from Mass Health, and they were contradicting each other, and so they just needed some help in evaluating, and then they needed somebody to go to an appointment with them. Somebody else had an annual review appointment, and they needed help going to the ride because it's a young woman with autism who, is, functional on a day-to-day basis, but who just had anxiety about having to show up to an appointment. So she's not going to bring a lawyer with her to that appointment, but the social worker could go.
Right.
And her family, she didn't want to bring her mom with her. She's, a woman in her late 30s, but
Right.
the social worker works for her. That person is her staff person.
Right.
And, that just gave her a lot of control over the situation. And so
Right.
those are some examples of how we
Right.
can help. And, it fills a need.
Well, I think hearing that makes it very understandable, and for our viewers, these are actual examples of ways you can get help. And so I think knowing that this exists, some people might not even know that. So I think sharing that is very important, because it just gives people that sense of control, that sense of help. And sometimes, like you said, it's just a hug. It's what sometimes people need. So I love hearing about that. Personally, how does it make you feel to see these organizations come to fruition? I mean, not one, but two. And I guess it's a spin-off in a sense, but two things that are needed and you've created. How does that make you feel?
Amazing. Tired. It's great. I think about Elizabeth all the time, as you can imagine, and I hope that she's proud of me.
I'm sure she is.
I really, I know that, she probably is looking down and hoping that we're happy, and hoping that we have been able to live our lives without her in a way that makes her, makes her life worth something.
Right.
For all of us.
Well, I didn't know her, but I think her life surely did. I mean, just hearing what you've done in her honor, in her legacy, and having the butterflies flying around you all the time, you are sharing that. So thank you so much. I really feel like you're not a person who has let, I don't know the right word, catastrophe, disaster, sadness, it's there, and you're aware of it, but you have been able to take this horrible situation and help others. And I think I commend you, and I'm thankful for Elizabeth and for you, and I know that all of the clients and patients that see you and get help feel that same way. I also want to see, is there anything else you'd like to mention about the services or different things professionally that you do?
Well, we don't always just help, but we can step in when family members are not there. So we can, if we have somebody who does not have a family member to be a guardian or a trustee, we can actually fill that role as well.
Right.
So
That's great to know, because I think, that happens.
Yeah.
And it's nice to know there's somebody who can help.
Yes, as I was driving up today, that I was getting calls about surgery for somebody who I'm a guardian for.
Wow.
So
Right. So yes, so you're tired, you're energized, and you're proud. But I think that combination seems to work very well.
yes.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing. I know it's hard, but I appreciate sharing the good that has come out of it and the services and things that are provided now for others.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
You're welcome. Before closing, we provide our viewers with an opportunity to share comments or ask questions from our prior shows. Rare New England in Motion is the perfect way to expand upon our mission of engaging with our community. Please send any comments or questions you have to info@rarenewengland.org. We will share your responses on our next show. We received a comment from a viewer asking about Rare Disease Day and what it is. Rare Disease Day is an observance held on the last day of February to raise awareness for rare diseases and improve access to treatment and medical representation for individuals with rare diseases and their family. Rare patients, families, and organizations all do various initiatives to mark this day. Rare New England hosts the Rare Disease Day speaker series. During the weeks around Rare Disease Day, Rare New England arranges for patients and/or family members to speak to medical audiences at major teaching hospitals, medical schools, and genetic counseling programs all around New England. For 2020, Rare New England will be presenting at 9 different medical institutions. To learn more, please view our website. From all of us at Rare New England and all the patients and families who keep rare disease in motion, thank you for watching. And remember, when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, then think zebras. Thank you.